passed on some sheep to us, but there were a few goats in the herd too. It's a interesting flock to take care of.
Yeah. All right. Justin A. Myrick, Sr.
Yep, so far.
Okay, this is I guess a very special evening. In fact, it's our first 60th anniversary event. You know, one of the storytellers from the very beginning is here, and Sylvia is with us to let us know whether or not he's telling the truth.
Exactly.
And he's told me over dinner that when he talks to people, he says, "Now, make sure that I'm remembering this right. Did that really happen?" And the response is, "Now, who are you?"
Yeah.
Okay. So it has been a delight to spend some time with Justin and Melissa over at Oli Moly. We had a lovely dinner that they treated me to. They turned the tables on me, but that is just such a Stanford thing to do. Justin A. Myrick Sr. is a former professor and dean for the Raymond B. Jones College of Engineering at Lipscomb University. He retired in 2018. Justin and Melissa live in Nashville, and they are active members at the Ackland Avenue Church of Christ. And I happen to know a couple who was married there in 1959, believe it or not. Justin has previously taught at the Georgia Institute of Technology and the University of Central Florida. His first engineering job out of college was with the Connecticut-based aerospace firm Sikorsky Aircraft. I've heard of them. Justin, Melissa have two sons, Jay and Andrew. Andrew is married to Kalai.
Excellent.
Thank you. That's Hawaiian. And they are the proud grandparents of an 18-month-old.
Yes.
By the name of
Winry.
Yes, Winry. Now, Justin is a senior, and he did not want to name his son as a junior. But they told me tonight over dinner that God has a sense of humor, and their eldest son was born on Justin's birthday. So there you go. All right. Justin has a very solid background. It makes my head hurt when I think about it. He is a 66 graduate of the University of Alabama. His BS is in aerospace engineering. And if that wasn't enough, he went to NYU from 66 through 69. He has a Master of Science in Aeronautics and Astronautics, excuse me. And then the University of Missouri at Columbia, PhD in Healthcare Systems Design, Industrial Engineering, Health Administration, Public Health, Healthcare Systems and Industrial Engineering, all of that from 72 to 74. Now, although retired, Justin's interests still include research in engineering education and humanitarian engineering, as well as systems engineering applied to healthcare delivery. His past research areas and current interests include emergency medical service systems, international health and alternative health delivery models, including HMOs and managed care systems. As we look forward to our 60th anniversary in 2026, we see this as a wonderful opportunity for new and long-time members alike to hear about the church's earliest days, as well as the spirit that compelled this group of people to leave lives they knew to go to a strange place called Stamford, Connecticut, to share the good news with people who may not have heard it. So Justin and Melissa, welcome. So happy to have you here.
Thank you.
So I'm going to shift this laptop over so you can see this handsome guy.
Look out.
Yeah, there you are. And just talk to the screen and we'll pick you up.
Handsome guys. This is really good.
Oh, they've seen me.
Maybe I could talk and you can
just move my lips.
Yeah. Okay. That would work.
Well, you don't seem like a very dry professor at all.
Yeah, well, it's, I think my main challenge is the engineers like graphs, charts and graphs. So there's a graph of advancing age and declining IQ.
Okay.
And so I think it's crossed over now. So,
Okay. You passed the midpoint.
So I'm so glad Sylvia's here, because with my advancing dementia, then she can say, that's interesting, but that's not the way it happened.
I will never say that.
That sure is an interesting story, but that's not the way it happened.
Yes. So you were here at the very, very beginning. What in the world prompted you to take up stakes and to try to plant a church in Stamford, Connecticut?
Well, I was going to sort of tell you the backstory.
That's fine.
There was a minister named Kenneth Reed who was at the University Church, the minister of the University Church, and we had a Bible chair at the University Church, and part of the challenge with Bible chairs is you got to continue to raise money to be able to do all of this. And the University Church had a very, very few resident members. Most of the church attendance was college students. And so they would raise money from churches all over Alabama, little churches, big churches all over. And one night, Kenneth Reed and one of the students named Terry Olivet were out raising money in the spring of '63. And so in 1963, they were out, and the Exodus Bayshore had just been announced, and they got to talking about Exodus Bayshore and what an opportunity that would be if graduating seniors, instead of going in 4 directions, if they all decided to go one place and do a church plant. And so that was the spring of '63. And in the history of the Stamford Church, the 1966 to '85, they talk about it was first announced at the Bible chair lectureship in Tuscaloosa, but it had already been talked about quite a bit. In fact, Brother Reed had talked about it internally. And so that's what sort of started it. And it was really an inspiring dream. And so there were several of us that said, even though I was a freshman, that would be a cool thing to do. And so we kept working on it, thinking about it. And the next big event was a 1964 trip to Ice Lake, Ontario, to help a church there. And on our way back, we came back through and stayed with the members at Bayshore, which was West Islip by then. So the West Islip Church put all these college students up for 2 nights. And so after the first night, then we went to the World's Fair. It was the 1964, and then came back and spent another night with West Islip. And so that was another sort of opportunity to see West Islip in action, and see those 85 families who moved from Texas up there. And so all of the Exodus movements really were inspired by Dwayne Evans and the West Islip Church. And so that's what really got us going.
Mhm. Laconia, did you have a question?
I'm
Okay.
listening.
Right.
Yeah, it's dangerous to ask a college professor to talk because, you know, as Melissa says, I don't have a baby anymore that I can pinch, you know, and leave. So I'm gonna try to do as many question answer things as you'd like.
Right.
Justin, did you imagine, I know you've got quite an extensive educational background. When you came to Stanford, did you imagine that you were planting the seeds for a church that would hold study and education, rigorous education at a high level in terms of our priorities?
Well, I think so because it was a group that moved that were college educated, and we also had, fortunately for us, a great blessing was to have some mature students or mature families that came with us, and some very mature families who already lived here. There were 11, I think, families that lived here, and 55 family units that moved, and those family units were a lot of single people. So I was just thinking today that there were 7. There were 14 of those family units that married each other. So it went from 14 family units to 7 family units, which none of these folks knew each other when they moved up here. Certainly people like Steve and Sarah Norfleet, and Clark and Marinelle Freeman, and Mitch and Nancy Brown, Bob and Sarah Israel, Jack and Karen Vandegrift, Jim and Cheryl Myrick, Chip and Johnny Ruth Jones. So all of those Sylvia remembers well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, Chip just died
Chip.
not long ago.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had a nice note from her. I wrote her, and then she wrote me a really sweet note back. So.
Oh, great. So a lot of these folks sadly have passed away.
Yeah.
I was 21 when I showed up in June the 13th of 1966 and became the old age of 22 that month. And so, that's getting to be a long time ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We I thought you might be interested in the sort of the first impressions. When I moved into Stanford, I stayed with Hilton and Sally Dean for a few days, and called the newspaper want ads where there were apartments available, or rooms available, or apartments available, and this lady in Springdale over on Knickerbocker had a room for rent, and so I rented that room for a month before Grant Newton showed up, and we wound up renting an apartment in Silverknoll. And so we were the first ones in there, and then there were 7 or 8 Stanford members that wound up moving into Silverknoll complex. I needed to buy a bed, so I went down to Caldor, and they wouldn't sell me a bed because I didn't have enough credit. And so
He got turned down by Caldor.
Yeah, I got really. Yeah. So Ansley Watley, who was a whole year older than I was, but was married, co-signed so we bought a bed at Caldor.
Well, did you pay it off?
Yeah, I don't, it was 3 payments or something.
Yeah.
But my brother moved here, and he was a freshman in college, and finished his freshman year, and he moved up here. So he was 19. And so he moved in with Grant Newton and me, and then Jack Vandergrift moved in there. And at one point in time, Clark Freeman lived in there. It was a real bachelor pad. So we had a lot of people that were there. So and Jim, my brother, got a job at the Stamford Motor Inn as a night auditor, which is now what is it now? Red Roof on at exit 9.
Oh.
And so he was robbed one night.
Yeah, it sounds like exit 9.
Yeah, and so the guy that robbed him apologized, which I thought he was kind of in drastic need of money, and so he apologized, but still robbed the motor inn. Our first taste of Chinese food came in Stanford. Alice Duncan and Myra Hayes, who were sophisticated people out of Nashville, took all these college students out, recent college graduates out for Chinese food. And apparently there was no Chinese food anywhere in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. So at that time, maybe there's not now.
I bet you there's some Chinese food in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, I hope so. So it was an interesting cultural start to move in and get the congregation started. I remember how excited we all were to that first Sunday at the Newfield School, and I've got a picture of that inside of that place, which was a really neat place.
It's still there.
Oh yeah. Oh, good.
Right across from the library.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I
strange.
was going to ask how it was, to adjust culturally, being from Texas and Alabama, and this being a different culture. What was it like to adjust to that?
Well, it was at Sikorsky, all the employees were very fascinated with my accent, and they would say things like, the secretary over in the test branch, she's from North Carolina. You need to go over and talk to her. It's like, oh, great, yeah. Or they would say, well, pronounce these words for me. And or they would say, I have an aunt that lives in Kentucky. Like we know, if we're from the South, if we're from the South, we know everybody in the South.
Right.
So, but I didn't happen to know her. So it was fun. It was a fun time.
Absolutely. They say pardon me a lot too when you talk. They're like, pardon me.
Pardon me.
That's what I noticed.
Justin, Doug, Sylvia, and I have talked about what it's like growing up in Alabama and then moving up to a place, because you were just on the edge of coming out of segregation.
Yes.
And what was it like coming from there to here in a Christian context,
Yes.
and not just a sociocultural context?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. Let me also say I grew up in Tennessee. So I actually went to Alabama as an out-of-state student. And was a dramatic change in the early 60s between the attitudes in Tennessee and the attitudes in Alabama. Not enough of a change, I might add, but there was a considerable difference. The students, on the other hand, were much more open, as young people are. But it was a difficult time. I think our church members that moved here certainly had a much better attitude about segregation.
Thank you.
Yeah. It was of course we're still trying to work on this.
What was the spirit of the gatherings like? What was the spirit of the congregation like as you were meeting in a school auditorium or cafeteria? What was that like?
It was really an exciting time. It was I think we all felt an extra strong bond with each other, and a love for each other, and a common, it was a common goal to have a church here. And there's something about any group of people that have a unified goal that they are seeking, that really binds them together, and that certainly was the case with this. So it was just a magical time. And I know that everybody who came, it was really a fundamental change in everybody's life, for the good.
So, Justin, how long were you here?
I was here from June of '66 to August of '69. So I was here a little over 3 years.
So you got to experience our change of seasons and all the grandeur that went with that. I mean, but do you think that had an impact on you spiritually? Not that you don't have change of seasons in Tennessee and Alabama, but New England is really pretty spectacular.
Well, I remember the 15-inch snow where we were
That'll make you pray.
we were blocked in for 8 or 9 days in Silver Knoll. The good news is there, as I mentioned, there were 7 or 8 families that lived there, so we all shared canned goods and all that stuff. It was a fun time. Got together and played a lot of games, and
we actually had a vacation Bible school at Sylvan Knoll. There were so many families. I can't remember who spearheaded it, but there were several couples there, and we had a little vacation Bible school there one summer.
Well, the Dadismans lived there, and
I think it was the Dadis. I think she was the one that was the head of it.
Yeah,
and she invited a lot of kids that lived in Sylvan Knoll, and it was great.
Yeah, there were a bunch of folks that lived there. It was
the Pounders lived there, didn't they? Did the Pounders live there?
No, they lived up here near the property here.
Okay. I couldn't remember where they lived.
Yeah, but Fred and Lou Copeland lived there, and Norman and Gay Lewis lived there. And Doug Harris and Lloyd Newton and all those guys live there. So there's a lot of folks that live there. It was and then Alice Duncan and Myra Hayes live right down the street with Billy Joe Walker and all those folks. Billy
Yeah, she
Joe
was our secretary.
church secretary. So
And what was your approach to trying to engage the community?
well, we were pretty naive, you know.
I mean, I'm sure things were certainly different at that time, but
Oh yeah, yeah, you know, if naive would have gotten us there, we would have had roaring successes. I remember we all, a whole bunch of us bought Jewel Miller film strip machines. And I can still remember, you know, the first "Tell me the old story." Ding. I mean, you could,
Oh, gosh.
yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, so that was a thrill. And we had a do I?
That probably didn't work so well.
Oh no. And we moved with 3 ministers and a secretary. So we had a staff of 4. But very early, the supporting congregations of 2 of those notified the ministers that they weren't going to be able to continue to support them. So we wound up losing the personal work minister, and we wound up losing the I guess David Ralston was he the worship minister or the educational minister? Or?
I think he was the worship minister,
Yeah.
and Lynn Nelson was the other one.
Yeah,
Lynn Nelson.
Lynn and Cecilia moved away.
Right.
So-
We actually made up a song when they moved away, and we sang it to them. It was the original song. But one of the things I had to do was go to the Chamber of Commerce once a month, and there would be little cards I could go look at, and it tell everyone new that had moved into the city of Stanford. And I could write down their addresses, and then I guess we would send them a letter or something.
Oh yeah.
That would, I mean, you know, that's going to really get a
Oh yeah.
But that was one thing we did. I remember doing that.
Oh yeah.
It seemed that in reading, you know, some of the histories that you were involved in, like educational endeavors in Stanford. You were really involved in the community itself, not just, you know, religious things, but also, you know, helping people where they needed help with regard to education or whatever else.
Yeah, there was a lot of outreach. I mean, the congregation really emphasized what are the ways that we can, you know, outreach to the community and you know, be of service. And
Yeah.
I
We had a
think
bus ministry for a while later. I don't know if you were still here,
That
but they
was-
would go down and pick up children. There was we had some input with some children somewhere, and Johnny Carroll was big on that.
yeah.
And it was pretty successful for a while. We had a bus, like a school bus that would go down and pick up these kids for Sunday school.
Yeah.
The joy bus.
Yeah.
Jesus first, others second, yourself last.
Yeah.
Joy.
Yeah. Melissa, when she was 16 years old, they gave her the keys to the bus and said, go after it. So
Oh,
You did.
that
Is
was
that not crazy?
Great.
where was that, Melissa? Where was that?
Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh, wow.
And we were a very small congregation, so the person younger that was closest to me was 4 years younger. And the person older than me, closest to me, was my sister, who was 4 years older. So I'd had it was a very conservative congregation back then. And I had been in the same Bible class with me and a male teacher for 4 years, and I was like, I can't.
I've had
I
it
can't
with
do this. I can't. Do whatever you want, but I'm gonna do something different. So they go, well, here's the keys to the van. You can create whatever you like. I was like,
Right.
okay, watch this.
Justin, I think you'd be proud to know that the seeds of hospitality that were planted way back when, Sylvia has nurtured and taught many generations of
Yeah.
others how to be kind and sweet and hospitable.
Which
And
is no
we
surprise
treasure
to us,
Sylvia.
knowing that Sylvia did that.
Yes, we named an award after her,
Okay.
and it's called the Sylvia Smith Christian Service Award. And Sylvia was the first recipient. And since then, she's gone downhill.
Yeah.
It's like
It went
she-
to her
Like
head.
all- I
it's like the
slacked off
curse of the
after that.
Oscar, you know.
Yeah.
She just can't seem to live up to her own,
Yeah.
you know, legend.
Yeah, I wanted to also mention another name. Sylvia also had mentioned Ansley Watley earlier.
Right.
Here is a guy who was a student. He was a senior at Alabama, and then got a master's. And so, in the 2 years that he was a senior and getting his master's degree, he would go out to raise money for the Exodus with little bitty churches, big churches, all kinds of churches. And he spoke in the year and a half or so, he spoke 54 times. And to raise money, and the goal was to pay those 3 ministers for have enough money to pay them for 2 years and to buy the church property, which was amazingly was 3.5 acres for 70,000. It's kind of hard to believe.
Oh, wow, what a deal that was.
What that this property it was.
Yeah, right here by
Purchased
the
for
Merritt Parkway. It was a
70.
flat, beautiful piece of property.
Oh yeah. Oh,
And it had 2 houses on it too.
yeah. So that was just amazing to have that sort of dedication and service. And
That's how I found out about Stanford Church of Christ from Ansley. He came to Shades Mountain Church of Christ in Birmingham, Alabama with Cecilia Nelson, and they were recruiting also, and told us about it on a Wednesday night. And I went home and told my husband, and the next day the IBM transferred him to White Plains. And that's how I ended up in Stanford.
Our win.
I have a question for Melissa. What is it like for you watching your husband and hearing your husband go down memory lane from a church that he helped to start
You
this
know,
many years ago?
the last 2 weeks, watching him talk to all these people on the phone. Sometimes we were really busy trying to get things done, and he's chit-chatting on the phone and taking one suitcase to the car, or unloading or helping me make the bed. But even through all that, it has been so much fun. He has had so many meals with people that came to fact check. So I have loved, of course, I love all those people too. I mean, they've been in and out of our lives, and
yeah.
but it's been good to watch him walk down this memory lane, and for him to be able to, I think life beats us down sometimes, just life, just things. And so to be able to sit back and think back of the decisions you made, which always so smart necessarily, but worked
Yeah, no
because
kidding.
God was in it.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sure they made mistakes but still God was there and he used them, and just to watch them remember those times is lovely. It's just lovely.
Thank you.
We have, we still have Christmas ornaments that we bought at Caldor in 19.
You didn't have
in
a
19
center.
Yeah.
Yeah, they sold them Christmas ornaments, not then.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Christmas
Oh, yeah,
ornaments.
they saw, yeah, of course, I put up real live cash for that, so. But, it's fun to get out the Christmas ornaments in a little box that's got 12 balls in it, and you look over on the other side, it says Caldor $1.27 or something. You know? So I've got my little souvenir.
That's good.
We have some elves climbing a ladder and we hang them on our mirror every year. They came from.
Caldor.
Caldors.
Yeah.
So.
A fun place to shop.
Yeah.
Well, we're just delighted at what this church has become, and it's just it's wonderful. We're a lot of us that were 22 years old are hoping to be able to make it 3 years from now when you get ready for the 60th. If we're still walking, or or can find a walker to get in and out of the building or whatever. So see how that goes.
Well, we're equipped with ramps and all kinds of things.
Oh, yeah.
We'll hire a couple of people to carry you if we have to.
That's a plus.
Yes. Yes.
I do think this teaches us to really have faith in our 22-year-olds. They may think very differently from how we think,
Mhm.
and they may see God very differently than how we see God,
Mhm.
but they're on fire and they're ready. And even though I like doing it the way I've done it,
Mhm.
I am ready for some 22-year-olds to march in and change the world. I have great faith in our youth today.
Oh,
It
good.
really is amazing when you think that Jim Pounders was just 27,
Yeah.
and David Ralston was 27. He was in that in the same class that Jim was, and Lynn Nelson was 24. And a lot of the rest of us were 22.
Mm.
So no wonder we didn't know anything.
I know. Yeah, we talked about the cerebral cortex not really being fully developed, but
Yeah,
that's
no kidding.
that's but that's the best time. You can't talk yourself out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not, you're not jumping, 20 cars on a motorcycle,
Right.
but still what you did was very, very brave. And you started something and created something that, some 20 something years later, people like me would, have a place to land, when he blew up here like a dandelion from Texas. Yeah.
Yeah, I would, it'd be tough to purchase this property today.
Impossible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so gratifying to see how many uses the church building has, every week. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, it's well used.
It is. And sometimes, your dreams don't work out exactly as you expect them.
Yeah.
This may be a different church than what was envisioned 60 years ago. When we built the new wing, we were sort of bursting at the seams in this part of the building because we had a lot of kids, our own kids. And then as we got that built, all of those demographics sort of changed. But on any given Monday or Thursday, we're bursting at the seams with children, but they're not children from our quote unquote congregation.
Yeah.
But it's still children that know this place is home, where they're getting their educations and things. And some of us get to interact with them on a regular basis.
Oh, sure.
So it doesn't get me better than that,
Yeah.
than to be able to do that. And we host blood drives every couple of weeks or so. And you know, they love coming here. The blood drive teams and people who give here on a regular basis. They like coming here because they feel the spirit of this place, you know, and they're greeted with a garden and beautiful grounds. And then they come in here and they tell us without any prompting whatsoever, this place makes me feel so good.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
you know, thank God for that, because it's not our own doing, but the spirit here. If you could leave us with some thoughts of what you would hope for this church to be in its next 60 years, what would you tell us?
Good question.
Well, I know that you're going to have good leadership. I know that things aren't going to always go right. I know that God is in charge, and that's the wonderful thing, is to know that, you know, it's not our doing. I firmly believe that, you know, that God was leading Dwayne Evans to do that 63 Exodus of Bayshore. And out of that 63 effort, you know, there were 3 or 4 other Exodus groups that came out of there in 66, 67. And it's there was a professor at Emory University, a guy in the theology department who was a frequent Sunday school teacher at the North Lake Church in Atlanta. And so one of the things he said often was, he said that you know, God has this great canvas, and he says, I'm in some ways an observer to see how first century Christianity works itself out in the 21st century. And that's always the challenge, and how that happens, and it's going to happen in the 22nd century. But yeah, I certainly have faith that good people are going to come to the forefront and understand and obey the call of God to do the things that we need to be doing. It's an exciting time.
Yeah.
We know that we had a minister in Cookeville. I've been a part of eight different churches, you know, for a considerable amount of time at different times. And one of the things he said is, you know, the church is going to always be imperfect because it's made up of imperfect people. But God is in charge, and that's a good thing. a real good thing.
Any other questions? Sylvia, you have any thoughts?
No, it's just fun to kind of reminisce, and it's all just very vivid in my mind right now, remembering those days.
Oh,
And they were great. It was when I'd moved with 3 little children and my husband to a place I didn't know a soul. And here suddenly I had a whole church family, you know, and it was such an easy transition for me. So I've always been so grateful that this all happened like it did.
We were also grateful for, you know, Gaines and Sally Turner, and
Yeah.
you know, all those folks, Rand and Mary Ellen Dyer, and all those folks that were here.
Yeah, it was a nice core group to begin with, you know, so that was good.
Justin, the makeup of our church, it's been pretty remarkable. Many, if not most of the people who attend our church or our families probably hailed from someplace else. And so they come here by themselves, just like Sylvia did, and they find themselves surrounded by cousins and aunts and grandparents and crazy uncles and you name it. And they take care of each other. That's always been the way it was, seems to be the way it will be in the future. But as you said, God is in charge. He brings us together because we need each other, and we do really well together. This church is quite healthy. And probably the thing I'm most proud of is we produce incredible young people that most years we have high school graduates. We review what they've accomplished, and it's astonishing each time, including, a lot of children coming from very modest backgrounds who really step up and shine. And I'd like to think it has a lot to do with their years at the Stanford Church of Christ. And Kathy, as I said a couple of weeks ago, it began with Joanne's class for babies, and Laconia taught that class for quite a while also. But we're so committed to teaching and learning and trying our best to be the unique members of the body of Christ that we were born to be. And certainly the Stanford Church of Christ has really been a huge part of our lives. There's no doubt about it. So again, thank you, Justin.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's been wonderful to follow the church and to keep in touch with so many members. We try to do as much of that as we can.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Well, no matter what decade you came to this church in, there's always that common thread, and this is a very, very special place, and people often leave this place looking for something similar.
Yes.
In where they go, and sometimes they get lucky to find a similar facsimile, and sometimes they just don't and have to deal with what they can find. But there is something very special about this place. There's been a lot of favor shown to this congregation by God from the very beginnings. $100,000 grant out of nowhere that literally Jim Pounders, had to continually. There's this man that was trying to give Jim Pounders this money, and Jim didn't think that he was legitimate or something like that. It's like Phillips Oil Company. So what? Yes, we're a Church of Christ. What do you want? Well, we have some money we want to give you. And so they literally had to pursue him to do that. But this church has always been fortunate to have been blessed, and I think you guys helped to start that because the foundation was right. Perhaps methodologies we would question today, but the intentions, and the fact that you trusted in God has benefited us all through these years. And I think you and Sylvia are prime examples of that. And so we're grateful to still, have Sylvia with us as one of our pillars.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yes. So any further questions? It is 8:00, a little past, while we still have this, and we hope to see you in 3 years.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Around September. So let's not have any relatives get married that same weekend.
I know. Yeah, I think I'm out of relatives getting married. That's a good
You
thing.
got a son.
Well, we still have a.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We'll
Well,
just tell him now.
well, you know what? If he wants to get married that weekend, bring him on up. We have a beautiful
Yeah.
chapel. We have ground.
He can get married if he wants, but he's got to do it here.
Yes, yes. We're making a destination wedding
Yeah.
to Stanford. You could do a lot worse.
Yeah.
You know, I had cousins got married in Kermit, Texas, so you can do a lot worse than Stamford, Connecticut.
Yeah, yeah,
Sure.
that's for sure.
All right, anything else?
Yep, sweet dreams, everybody.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye. Good seeing you.
Thanks so much.
Yes.
Bye.
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 Take care, Sylvia.
Okay, you too. Hope to see you in 3 years. And hope I'll still be here.
Right?
Sylvia, your hair looks so good.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm.
Cut.
Yes, I can tell. You got a little fresh cut, a little touch of color. Yes, you got it. You went down there to look good. You
Absolutely.
got your lips on.
Yeah, I'm all did up.
Oh, good. Well, you guys have fun and be careful, okay?
Okay, you guys
Bye.
have a
Yeah.
nice night. Night.
Bye.
Bye, Elaine.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.